Hello, everyone, and welcome to our latest episode of CX Days. Hope you guys all are doing well. Today, we will be discussing the future of work. Will it be remote work, hybrid work, or in-premise work? What do industry trends point to? What do companies need to do to enable their employees to work remotely without any disruptions? And how do employees ensure maximum productivity while taking care of their well-being while they work remotely? And what are the pros and cons of each? Joining me today is Alexey Orlov, who is HR Director at Edna. Hi, Alexey, and welcome to our show.
Hi, Svetlana. Glad to meet you. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. And I'm really looking forward to today's discussion. Should we get started?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
So, I've been meaning to discuss the future of work. After the pandemic, which kind of compelled all the companies to offer remote work, as well as gave many employees a taste of working from home for the first time, this has been the one big question on everyone's mind: the future of offices. What's in store? Permanent remote work, a back to office scenario, a hybrid work?
Office spaces are changing for sure. See, one thing I strongly feel is that there's no going back to how things were run earlier. The world around us has really changed. Working from home has been around for a while, but it's during the pandemic that we have seen a rapid adoption of the remote working model. Even companies that had a 100% work from office policy have had to make the switch and let their employees work remotely. I mean, entire industries have had to shift to a new way of work.
And it looks like remote work, at least occasionally, is here to stay. At least going by the latest trends, virtual work is set to outlast the pandemic. Companies that are forcing employees to return to office full-time are seeing many resignations.
As per the latest data from the Gallup Analytics Public Opinion Institute, USA, almost 54% of office workers are ready to leave their company if another company offers them to work from home and flexible schedule. And 53% of respondents expect an optimal work-life balance today. They've concluded that remote work improves HR branding and is a desirable policy to attract and retain talented professionals. And millennials are just not interested in sacrificing their freedom for work.
Yes, they're clearly looking for the jobs that allow them some measure of flexibility in terms of where they want to work from.
Yes, but many CEOs are insisting on employees returning back to their office desk. For instance, Apple CEO Tim Cook has been emphatic about the need for employees to stay physically connected because he feels it's impossible to plan for collaboration and innovation when one of them working remotely. He explained it that great ideas could emerge spontaneously when you bump into one of your colleagues during the day and can discuss it. These flashes will not happen if people are not present together in person.
Hmm. I think he may not be wrong entirely. Working from home can have its pitfalls. I think for employees who have spent time previously in the office, it's a lot easier for them to bounce virtually later. But think about a new joinee who has been onboarding virtually and has never met his team in person. It can be more difficult to connect with that person because you have never met them. What do you think?
With complete remote as additional communication are lost. As employees work in isolation, connections can get lost and effectiveness of team can drop over a long distance.
Sure, and Twitter's new boss, Elon Musk's thoughts on remote work have well known also. I think he clearly said that remote work was no longer acceptable to him and that he expected employees to be in the office for at least 40 hours per week. He dared those who were against it to leave the company. And he went on He went on to say this was less than we demand from workers in factories.
Musk has been pretty firm about it. But it's also true that in general there's a pushback from employees who don't want to return to a 100% back in office mode. Many are willing to even sacrifice their jobs rather than go back to their office.
Many offices are now adopting the hybrid model. I think Google, which was one of the first large American companies to send employees to remote work last year, began to shift to a 3-day office mode from September 2021.
Yes, from September, after 2 years of fully remote work, even Apple announced its intention to switch to a format that would require employees to work from office at least 3 days a week, on Tuesday, Thursday, and any third day as per the choice of individual teams. They took this decision keeping in mind their employees' wishes about staying remote. As per a survey conducted among 1,600 of Apple's product team members via the company's Slack chat, almost 90% said they strongly agreed that it was very important for them to be able to choose where to work from. At the same time, 58.5% of respondents say they strongly agreed with the statement that they worried that some of their colleagues would have to leave Apple if they were not given the opportunity to work remotely.
Okay, and aside from the US tech giants, how are other IT companies dealing with this?
You know, when you see the tepid attempts of large IT giants to move their workers back to office, as a smaller company, you would definitely think twice before refusing remote work entirely. Most IT companies do realize that they may never really get back to 100% office work ever. I think most are trying to move to a hybrid model.
What about the banking system? What are they thinking with regard to remote work in today's post-COVID world?
You know, when it comes to banking, the pandemic has divided global banks into two camps with differing views on how to organize their workflow. There is a big difference between American and European work culture. Americans really own corporate culture, while Europeans prefer flexible working hours. While American banks insisted on a speedy return to the office, their European counterparts were more willing to allow employees to work remotely for up to 3 days a week. Experts have called this a transatlantic split in the banking system. Top managers of the largest US banks advocate the return of people to the office. Employees of the American division of Goldman Sachs had to return to office by June. JP Morgan employees also had to end remote work in early July.
I think European bankers have introduced flexible working hours. For example, Deutsche Bank and Societe Generale have allowed employees to work from home up to 3 days a week. The French bank has signed an agreement on plans to work remotely with unions. The chief executive of the bank has said that the idea that one has to be in office to win is outdated. He believes that a flexible schedule can be an additional advantage when hiring employees. It can attract more talent.
The new rules will be tied to the functions of employees and the labor laws of the countries where the bank has a presence. According to the head of ING, Stefan van Reykjavik, the bank began experimenting with the format of work even before the second lockdown. They will continue with this format in the near future.
You know, I was also reading that even within the same bank, there is a different approach to remote work based on the region where it is operating.
In London division of Credit Suisse, the return from remote work was scheduled from October, while in New York, return to work happened back in July itself.
Proponents of office work say that remote work destroys corporate culture, and this can lead to an increase in the number of layoffs. Remote work is also not suitable for junior employees who are difficult to train online. What about layoffs here?
I read about a survey of 500 sales released recently. Most of the world's major companies no longer intend to reduce their physical presence in the wake of the pandemic. Only 70% of executives expect layoffs, down from 69% in August. Just 30% said most employees would work remotely 2-3 days a week. From this survey, KPMG derived that either layoffs had already taken place or plans had changed as the impact of extended. Unplanned remote work took its toll on some employees.
And what are your thoughts on hybrid work? Do you look at it as the solution?
I think hybrid works is a good option because it combines the best of both worlds. With hybrid work, live communication of the team are preserved. The team's effectiveness of teams does not fail. Employees can also ensure their well-being through work-life balance. Employees also tend to be more loyal. HR teams find it easier to hire to top talent when they mention hybrid work under the job listings. The only downside is the office space. Also, may I add, it does present its own challenges. One UK bank executive found it difficult to implement a hybrid model rather than adapting to remote work. The FT intercalator clarifies that it was difficult for employees to attend the meeting, where some people communicated via video link, but on the whole, I think hybrid work is the way to go.
You're right. I also think it opens a pool of available candidates, as one can also consider candidates from other cities. Going by the trends, one thing is certain, that the remote work is not going to go away anytime soon. Could you please share some tips on how remote workers can streamline and organize their work?
One thing is that remote workers will really need to do is to go out of their way and deliver to convince managers about their ability. Because many managers do feel that employees can become work shirkers if they are out of sight.
Right. And I have another question. What can remote employees do to ensure that the team feelings when they are working in isolation? When working within the office premises, colleagues who work together have many opportunities to learn about each other's lives in an informal setting. They bump into each other in the cafeteria or the elevator and chit chat about plenty of topics, say past vacations, their favorite sport team, restaurant recommendations, and so on. But while this communication isn't essential in getting the actual job done, research says it creates kind of social glue, I can say, that allows you to form connections with colleagues that go beyond the purely business format of Zoom meetings on a specific project or client. So how can remote workers cultivate that feeling?
You're right. Researcher has shown that online negotiations are more likely to succeed when participants share personal information with each other and establish some kind of connection that goes beyond discussing a deal. For the same reason, a colleague who feels personally connected to you as opposite to someone with whom you have a less intimate relationship will almost certainly stand up for you in your absence or volunteer to help, even when he is not up to it. When you are remote, you'll have to think more carefully about how to build those connections. You can count on a chance meeting with someone who invites you to dinner together. You will most likely have to be the initiator if you decide to invite a colleague to a video chat or host a virtual networking event. But the effort is well worth it given the powerful impact of social connection on your reputation and ability to get the job done.
I think it's also really important to be physically visible and turn on the camera at least.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
For some companies that want to make remote work possible for their employees, what are the key infrastructure related things to keep in mind?
See, first, they should have the IT infrastructure in place. They should install software for remote connection on their employees' computers. They also need to install a VPN or equivalent. Number two, they should provide, reimburse employees with high quality headsets and check their performance to ensure optimum performance. They should provide, compensate for a laptop or webcam.
I think having a group mechanism for group chat is also vital, isn't it?
Companies should use corporate messengers. They also need to frame certain rules to regulate communication, including the speed of response times. Apart from chatting, video calling software should also be provided to employees. A couple of them is desirable as any software can have fail rules. Teaching employees to use a calendar and creating a schedule is also essential. All meetings should be sent in advance for confirmation by all participants. If the appointment is not in the calendar, then the appointment does not exist. Also, all employees should have access to the calendars of others.
I think nowadays remote workers also store all their folders in the cloud, isn't it?
Yes, using the cloud to store folders is also important. No folders should be stored on person device.
Now that we have spoken about the infrastructural requirements for remote work, would you shed some light on the psychological factors? How employees can enhance their performance?
See, first they need to set their attendance hours online. This should be as closely matched as possible for all employees. Remote work should not mean that everyone works as and when they want to.
You know, I think when you're dealing with dispersed employees, managers will need to rethink productivity and performance measures.
Absolutely. An employee can stay online all the time and give the appearance of work without actually doing anything productive. So it's better to keep track of what tasks they accomplished in a given period of time, rather than how much time they were logged in for. I think managers must also set response rules in chats and not expect instant responses all the time. This is the main enemy of productivity.
I also think there should be a healthy mix of chat and video calls, depending on the level of complexity of questions they may have for each other.
Right. They should solve only simple questions in the chat. Solve the main ones on video calls, followed by obligatory minutes of the meeting in the chat. Have regular general team video calls and one-to-one meetings with key employees at least once a week. And yes, another thing important to follow managers should ask their employees to use only real names and photos in the chat, no matter how trite it may be. Chat can and should become a replacement for the public directory of employees.
Yeah, and there is a lot of focus now on employee well-being. Research has proven that employees who have an optimum work-life balance are also the most productive employees. So, how can well-being be ensured?
You know, a lot of managers are encouraging employees to be part of some kind of well-being program. Sometimes that encourages them to move about and not sit at one of place, which can invite health problems.
I also think remote work does not always necessarily reduce burnout because people are working from home and don't have to commute, so they end up not spending that extra time with family, but by working extra. This tendency to overwork can cause burnouts and reduce quality of life. The pandemic research pointed out to overwork as the most cited cause of burnout and reduced quality of life. Gallup notes that the risk of professional burnout increases dramatically when a person works for more than 50 hours a week on average, and if more than 60, it just skyrockets. How can remote employees ensure they don't burn out?
You know, to ensure well-being, it's critical to maintain a clear boundary between work and leisure time. Many studies have concluded that the digital workday never ends, and work time can eat into leisure time. So a strict schedule needs to be adhered to.
Right, and we at Edna are lucky to have a very flexible working arrangement. Our employees can choose where they work from, and this is one of the many reasons why it's a great company to work for. We are aiming to satisfy all interests, the company in general and employees in particular. Depending on job functions and seniority level, we usually decide individually if it's possible to work remotely or not. We should keep up with the times, but take into consideration the fact that not all daily jobs can be done in purely remote mode. Um, well, thanks so much, Alexei, for joining us today, for joining for the chat. We hope you guys enjoyed today's discussion, and we promise to come back with another episode of CX Beats really soon. Till then, take care and bye.
Thank you too. See you. Bye.